Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now. I've been pretty public with my opinion on iTunes, which is the music management software, well, I guess media management software that has been further developed by Apple. It is available on both OS X as well as Windows. I've never really liked iTunes. It's gotten marginally better over time, but it just seems to me to be overkill and not very well organized. Of course, Apple uses it as a gateway to sell you more content, and more power to them. I'm not going to deny them that. However, I've got certain issues with iTunes on Windows, probably more issues than I have with iTunes on OS X. On Windows, the latest version of iTunes has like 5 or 6 different services running in the background. And to me, that's kind of overkill. Most people just use iTunes to, let's say, play their music, listen to internet radio. Does it really need that much running in the background? Now, some would say yes, because it could break each feature apart. And no, I think I don't like that all that much. I was just troubleshooting some issues that Ponzi was having on her computer downstairs. It wasn't related to iTunes, but as I was going into the task manager for Windows, I was looking at all these weird .exe files going, what the heck is this? I had to go to the internet. I thought it may have been spyware. So I went to the internet to look up these processes that were running in the background, and lo and behold, doing a quick search on Google, turned up that these were services related to the new version of iTunes. It's just like, gosh, instead of getting slimmer, it's getting fatter. And to me, I mean, as a user, as a program matures, it's kind of a given that it's going to become a little more complex and a little more complicated. But the hallmark of a good program shouldn't be that it bloats. It should be that it expands in feature set and contracts in size. That's the way it should be. It's not the way it always is, because of course there are contingencies and hacks and shims that are put into place. Now, that's the experience I've had with iTunes. I don't like it on Windows at all. That's my opinion. I don't think I'll ever like it on Windows, and even on OS X, it's jury's still out on that. I don't think iTunes is a great program. Unfortunately, it seems that iTunes is not going to be abandoned or at least replaced with anything else in terms of management of music on Apple or OS X at any point in the near future. There are some issues of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt that have been circulating, including in the chat room. Last night, Matthew Baker was, we were exchanging emails back and forth, and someone in the chat room had mentioned something about an iTunes music format, and that's when Matthew jumped in and to clarify something, and I thought this bared repeating for everybody out there who had the same idea. Matthew writes, someone in the chat room is claiming that AAC, or MPEG-4 audio, is the iTunes format. Now, it's true that iTunes plays this format, and Apple uses it along with their own DRM to sell music in the iTunes Store, although some are sold sans DRM right now, which is a good thing, having music or content that doesn't have DRM or digital rights management associated with it. DRM, essentially, and we've talked about this in the past, wraps a media file, in most cases, with a limitation, meaning you can only play it on machines, computers, devices that have been licensed to play, or have been, have been approved to play the file with the appropriate license on that particular device. DRM is a mess. That's what he's saying, and there's a way to get music without DRM through iTunes. Now, AAC is not Apple's format, Matthew continues. It is the open MPEG standard intended to replace MP3 of the 4 major media players. Flash is not included because although it is very major in terms of media playback, it only plays Flash. 3 out of the 4 are capable of playing AAC, iTunes, QuickTime, and Real. Although one could say correctly that iTunes is QuickTime and that Real Media, or the Real Player, isn't very important. The only other major player that doesn't play AAC is Windows Media Player because Microsoft wants people to use its own format, WMA. It's a big mess. But the bottom line is, as Matthew Baker said, the AAC format is not is not Apple's format. Apple is actually playing along with the rest of the industry more so than Microsoft is. That wouldn't necessarily be the first time. If you want to play AAC files back on your Windows machine, of course, you could download iTunes. Not necessarily recommended, but there are plenty of media players out there that will play a variety of formats. We discussed this yesterday in a video response. Players that I've recommended in the past for Windows, media player, or what is it? The media player alternative, QuickTime alternative, real player alternative. Their Media Player Classic plays it if it doesn't work. That's the one I was thinking of. Media Player Classic. You can download that for free from SourceForge. Do a search for Media Player Classic. It'll turn it up. But it'll play a variety of formats that Windows Media Player may not. The key is with any media file, again, we've covered this in the past as well, so if you want to dive deeper, you can. You need to have the right codec, the right software installed to be able to play back a file that was created with this codec. And if you don't have the ability to decode the encoded media file, then you can't view it at all. You've probably run into that problem a million times. That's the whole problem with the media space. It's an absolute mess. You don't care. Honestly, do you really care if a file format is WMA versus AAC? At the end of the day, do you care? Do you care? No, you don't care. More importantly, do your parents care? Do your grandparents care? No. The only thing that this causes is frustration. This is why open standards are very, 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 very important. It makes for a less frustrating experience over time. So Apple has done the right thing by embracing AAC. They've done the right thing. Is thing a word? Maybe we'll have to come up with a definition for it and license it out to people with some special strategy where we can monetize any use of the word thing, but only if we enable it with DRM. And then, of course, we can charge people over and over and over again for the same usage of the word thing. If they want to add a new definition, we can charge them for that. Oh, I like the idea. Thing! Let's make up a definition for that word and then charge people. I'm kidding. I haven't eaten all day. Been too busy, pulled into this stuff. See, even Ponzi's yelling at me. My wife is yelling at me right now. So I'm going to end the video. If you got any comments on AAC or WMA or this whole mess of media, iTunes in general, what are your opinions? Leave a follow-up remark or response if you've got any suggestions for how people can get past this industry mess. Hoping that Flash one day will save us all, since that seems to be the closest thing we're ever going to find to a universal media player. Let us know what you think, or of course swing by the chat room. We're always available, and every week what I'm about to do right now is give away a webcam. As I said, we do that every week. We do video questions and answers every day, but the webcam once a week. That's courtesy of Ustream.tv. And of course everyone's typing it in live.pirillo.com. Too bad you're not here live now. You would have an opportunity to get a webcam. And you don't need to have iTunes installed.